Hey everyone, thanks for attending our next session for today, which is your year-end review writes itself. My name is Jim Tower and I'm the Director of Customer Solutions here at RoboHead. And what we're going to do for today is use RoboHead data, feed it into AI along with a few other bits of information, and really use all of that information combined to create smarter, faster, and more impactful reviews. So whether you're an organization that does self-reviews, maybe you do your own review every year and compare that with your manager, or maybe you're a manager of several people, you have several people reporting to you, and you need to do a bunch of reviews all at once. Everything we're going to go through today should save you some time in either of those scenarios. So the problem we're really trying to solve with this today is that reviews are time consuming. We know reviews are important and important to the individual as well as important to the manager and the organization overall, but they do take up quite a bit of time to put all the information together and to actually create them and write them. And it seems that we're never really ready for them. HR sometimes sets the schedule for those, and we might be in the middle of a busy season or a busy project, and we still need to maintain our schedule for getting reviews done as well as our regular work. It's also hard to remember everything that happened for the entire year unless you take really good notes, whether that be for yourself or for your direct reports. And oftentimes reviews when they're written are disconnected from actual performance data, and that's really where RoboHead will come in. Today we'll show you how to pull some data from RoboHead to use actual data along with your writing of your review and combine those together into one document. So the solution that we're going to take a look at today, again, is combining RoboHead reports along with other data sources and your own observations. So we'll be uploading a series of documents into ChatGPT today. And the goal, again, is to save you a lot of time, increase accuracy, as well as the completeness of your reviews. So what do you need to do this? This is just one example. It's by no means an exhaustive list. You might have other data sources that you want to use, maybe information from other tools that you want to use, and that's okay. Again, we are going to use a report directly from RoboHead today. You might create multiple RoboHead reports depending on what metrics that you want to track and put into your review. We're going to use a copy of last year's review as a reference guide along with a job description. And then we're also going to use a review template. I know a lot of you, especially in larger organizations, probably have templates that you get from HR that are in a specific format that you want to use. And I know a lot of you do take notes on wins, feedback, things that happen throughout the year. We're also going to include that in our example today. Another thing you can use, we're not going to use in our example today, but as a bonus, if you do use the RoboHead survey feature along with kudos, you can download and take your list of kudos and upload those as well and incorporate those into your reviews. So a few things to consider as we go through this. As always, when you're working with AI, you'll want to proofread any AI-generated content for accuracy. Also, make sure to proofread specifically any metrics or numbers that are carried through, just to make sure that those are correct. And by no means do we want to dehumanize the process here. Again, we know reviews are important. We know those conversations are important not only for you as an individual contributor, but also you if you're a manager, and they're fundamental for personal evaluation and growth as well as growth of the organization. But again, the goal here is really just to save you time up front instead of gathering, a lot of information manually and typing information from scratch every time, to really give you a template to work from or a starting point to work from, and you can edit your review from there. Also recognize that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to this. We're going to show you one example today just to get the ideas flowing. But again, you might have different data sources you want to use. We're going to use ChatGPT today for this, but you might have different AI tools that you have access to in your organization as well. And really, what you should probably do is use this year as a process template, kind of feel out what works for you in this process. And then that will make it easier going forward. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time when it comes to next year's review and so on. Okay, we're going to flip now over into RoboHead, and we're going to pull a report that we're going to use to build our review. Okay, so I'm here in reports, and I've got a report here that I've created and set up already. It's tasked for my performance review from the last year. And again, this is just one example. You might have different metrics that you want to pull for yourself, or if you're a manager, pull for other people. This is just a basic task report with the task information. I'm tracking actual and estimated hours for each task, so I'm going to pull that in. I'm also pulling in all the key dates for tasks, as well as the description, what project each task is for, as well as the client name. One key thing, if you're running these reports, is you want to make sure the data is only for this year. So here I'm pulling the actual end date of each task is between the first of the year and the last day of the year. So you want to make sure to include that, whether it's a task report or a project report. Put some date parameters in there so you're only pulling information for the current year. If you're pulling this for other people, you'll also probably want to use a filter to pull out a separate report for each individual person. So to do that, you'll just want to pull, the task assignee field includes, and then the person's name in here. So I'm pulling all these just for myself today. So you'll want to run this in Excel because we need to upload this into AI in order for it to be used. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this and run it. And that's going to download my Excel file here that I can now upload into ChatGPT. So before we get into the AI portion of this, let's take a look at some of the other documents that we're going to use to upload as part of our review. So the first document we're going to take a look at is the performance review template that we got from our HR department. Some of you may use something like this, some of you may not. If you don't have it, that's okay. You don't necessarily need it, but this is going to help us at the end to format the review into the appropriate document format that is needed, that we need to submit at the end of the year. The next document we're going to take a look at is the job description. So hopefully all of you have a job description that you can use for this. I think this is pretty helpful because it outlines your day-to-day key responsibilities, your position summary, and then core competencies needed for your position. The other document that we're going to upload is last year's review. So the one from 2024. So this is, again, in the template format that we just looked at from the previous year, and this is all filled out. So the idea here is you're going to be able to have AI compare what happened in 2024 to the current year and make some comments on that for you. And then the final document we'll take a look at is something we'll actually paste in, which is the actual prompt that's going to generate our current year review. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. And so I'm going to send this prompt in the chat just so you have it and you can, edit it as you need to. But basically it's saying write a year-end performance review for myself. Included my job title in here, what team I'm on, and how the output should be formatted. I'm telling it to use the different documents that we just talked about, the previous year's review, the job description, the RoboHead task report that we just pulled. So we're going to upload that as an Excel file. Some employee comments that I made, just information about myself that I kind of kept track of over the year. And then finally, the HR review template that we talked about. So I told it kind of what to include, what tone to have in the final output. and then the different sections that it should break it down by when it actually creates the final review. Okay, so we've got our documents together, we've got our RoboHead report that we created, and now it's time to go into ChatGPT and see how all of this goes together. So I started off here and pasted in the prompt, so the prompt that we just looked at from that Word document. I uploaded all of our documents in here. I uploaded the task spreadsheet, the report that we got from RoboHead. And so here's the pasted in prompt, and then here is the output that it started to give. So it took in, all that information, kind of combined it together and created one concise output. Now you'll notice as I scroll through this, it does have the different sections that I asked for, but if you were to look at it closely, you would see that it's not in the exact format that I want at the end, which is in that HR final format, the one broken down with the different sections in the HR template. So that's okay, we can revise that. I'll show you how I did that here at the end. So it's broken down into the different sections. You can see here it's bringing in some of the actual stats, and in some cases doing math based on the stats from the RoboHead report. One thing I do want to highlight here is to look out for these little gray highlighted areas here. These are actually citations, so it tells you exactly what document it's pulling in that bit of information from. So if you see something, again, that doesn't look quite right, definitely double check it against the source document or documents that you're using. And this is kind of nice because then you know exactly which document to go back to. So you can see here, some of these things came from my personal comments document. Down here, this piece here came from my job description, and so on. Okay, so it's definitely, took all this in and is creating a very comprehensive review for me. This was a little wordy, obviously, so you're not going to want to take this and just copy and paste it and send it on. Again, this is really meant to be just a starting point or a reference point where you can go in and instead of starting everything from scratch and writing from scratch, you can then go in and edit it down from there and maybe pull out some of the more relevant information. And again, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the output wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't in that HR template format with the different sections that I showed you. So I simply told it to output in the HR template format. Now, one thing I've found is that AI in general is not great at formatting external documents. So, ideally we'd want this in a final Word document. You could try to do that and kind of see how it looks. I found it not to be very consistent. But what you can do is copy and paste the information in here. It did break it down into the nice, neat sections, and it is organized fairly well. But things like, the font and line spacing and line breaks, page breaks, things like that, you typically would probably need to update once it gets over into Word or whatever you're actually going to be editing this in. So here you can see now it broke it down into the different sections that was in that HR template that we looked at. And then if I scroll down here, all the way to the bottom, it had my overall rating that it picked. And look at that, I've exceeded expectations for the year. Okay, so from there, if you want to copy all this, just click the copy button here and you can then paste it into the Word document. I did want to highlight a couple of things in the final output here that it brought over from RoboHead that I thought were kind of interesting. So if I go back into Word, I just pasted that into a document here. So if I go into this final review, I did want to mention a couple of things and just kind of how it pulls in the RoboHead data and combines that with everything else. And so here in the performance summary, you can see it pulled in the fact that I managed 100 projects, and it had the exact number here from my report, 508 tasks, 4 or 5 internal client groups. It actually listed out the client groups marketing events in HR and recruiting. It did identify that there was an increase in volume, but in lower on-time completion rate. So 186 tasks delivered on time versus 322 that were delivered late. So it's kind of nice that it pulled that in, did the math for me, and wrote that out in complete sentences without me really doing any work. Again, you'll just want to verify that those numbers are correct by referencing back to the spreadsheet. And then down here under key accomplishments, again, it did a little bit of math for me that marketing, we have a client called marketing, accounted for more than 70% of my task volume. And then down here toward the bottom, it actually compared my 2025 on-time completion to 2024 and put that number in there. So pretty interesting that it can take that, implement it, and kind of insert it into the final review just based on uploading the spreadsheet file, the report from RoboHead. Okay, so hopefully what we went through today saves you a lot of time in your review, and here's hoping all of you exceed expectations in the current year and the year to come. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.